That's right. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo.
And I'm Stephen Rombolo.
And you can catch out all your favorite Jersey First content on jerseyfirst.org, where you can sign up for our newsletter and sign the pledge. You can also check us out on Jersey First TV on YouTube, where you can get all of your content like Bridging the Gap, The Nader Narrative, Real Talk with Fernando, and you can check us out on NJ on demand anytime under Jersey First Bridging the Gap there. So, Stephen, what's up? You had a busy week this week. I know that.
Busy doesn't even do it justice. We had this was midterm week here at the law school. Only two of my classes elected to give midterms, which quite grateful for. However, they were back-to-back days, and I had another assignment sandwiched in between them, which made studying and all those like last-minute preps and tweaks and everything a little bit more difficult than they needed to be. But yeah. The stress of the midterms was about what I expected. However, moving forward, obviously the next place we're looking to is finals, and that's got me riled up already. Because if the midterms were this involved and covered this much, subject matter, the finals, I completely understand why they give you a week beforehand of no classes to just sit down and get it all together. But listen, we had contracts yesterday. I think contracts I did pretty well on. I don't have any scores on it yet. It was also an essay part of that midterm. So it was the first time that I'm going to have a properly graded law school essay, which I'm excited to get some feedback on, regardless of how I do. Like, it's one of those, like, I just did it, it's the first one. I'm not expecting to hit a home run, but I'm also, not getting a strike. So I think I did decently well on it. And then today we had the dreaded civil procedure midterm, which I landed dead in the middle of the pack. I'm going to cling on to every little bit that I can. I was technically 0.6 points above the average. So if we're above the curve, we will take it. Has basically been the past 7 days for me. It was just preparation, getting ahead, making sure all my other classes work was addressed and done in a timely manner. I also had some visitors down this weekend, friends from home, John and Amber. So grateful that they were able to come down and give me a nice little like taste of home before I had to, dig back into the law school grind down here. So it's been a weird week. It's been a long, very academically stressful, mentally exhausting week. But nevertheless, we made it, as we always do. Because that's just the kind of guys that we are. We're the kind of guys that do hard things and get hard things done.
That's fair. I'm proud of you. 2 exams down, and you got some more to go, but it'll be easier. The hardest ones are over. The first one is always going to be the hardest one. You know what to expect at the very least now.
Yep.
It doesn't make the content any easier, but like kind of what to do, how to prep for it, and you'll be better off for the other exams, My first year, I just had Civ Pro as a midterm, and I didn't do great. I didn't do super poor, but I didn't do great on it. And then by the time finals came around, I was able to prepare more effectively, and I did better on the finals than I did on the midterm. That's all you can ask for.
That's it. And I think it'll be interesting to see how my classmates adjust, because I think by all possible metrics, I know, and this is something I've been, it's a work in progress at this point, but is adjusting your expectation to law school grades as opposed to like regular school grades. Because there is, as you so graciously, you grounded me the other day when you explained this, and it's not the first time we've had this conversation. It certainly won't be the last time, but that these exams are kind of designed to push you into a very specific curve that is not anywhere near the grades that people are normally used to seeing in other classes. So it'll be interesting to see how everybody deals with what I think is going to be, for a majority of the class, your first like bad grade in a traditional sense, and what that, revamping, figuring out where we went wrong on the studying, what is the study group going to talk about the next time? Like, I think that'll be an interesting thing to to see, and I can't wait to be an active participant in that change because I'm only 3 hours separated from this midterm, and I can already tell you things that I'm going to do differently next time. So, give me another half a semester to figure it out, and I should be amped, ready to go for finals to get a better score than we did this time. Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the exams were made to trick you. I was actually I had ran it into a friend in the commons at school today, and she was talking to her mentee about midterms and how exams are designed to trick you. And so we were chatting a little bit about that today also, and it's true. Like they're trying to trick you. They don't want people to get 100. A lot of tests are written so that ideally everybody gets a good grade. These tests are written so that there is a clear curve so that some people are going to be on the higher end, some people are going to be on the lower end, and most people are going to be right in the middle. Um, that's how they're designed. They're supposed to trick you. You're not supposed to walk away with 100.
Well, we certainly did not. The
Yeah, well,
test
not
succeeded.
yeah. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. So just keep your head up. Like you said, as long as you're right in that curve, if not a little bit above, you're fine. You have nothing to worry about.
That's it. That's it. And not for nothing, I will say this was. So we were talking about this right before we started, but this particular class, my civil procedure, I have 3 graded assignments. The first one I did exceptionally well on, which I also have to remind myself of. Like, this isn't just one grade determines everything. So I do have a bit of a leg up because I have, in the totality of things, at least I was well above the average on that one. So certainly some more points than some other classmates, which hopefully once the end of the semester rolls around is going to work in my favor. Maybe be the difference between the B minus and the B or something. So
Sure. Sure. Yeah, just got to keep grinding, keep working at it. You'll be fine.
that's it. It's all I can do down here.
That's fair. That's fair. That's all anybody can do. But you know who can't keep working and keep grinding in their current position? And that is the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. He can't grind or work in that position at all because he was ousted.
That was a beautiful segue.
It's not a perfect segue unless you point it out. That's the rule of segues. Everybody knows that. So Speaker McCarthy voted out based off of a vote that was brought up by his own party, and it was Representative Matt Gaetz out of Florida. Basically, all of the Democrats voted him out, and 4% of the Republicans voted him out. And it's just mind-boggling to me because Speaker McCarthy, I don't know, Stephen, and we'll get into maybe the more political ends of this, but he seemed to be doing like fine as a speaker. I didn't think he was at all wildly conservative in his measures or super like I don't know, capitulating either. I think he was like a fine Republican speaker trying to get what he could get done, not trying to overstep and sort of not allowing deals in that way because they were just too conservative. And he got votes from both less conservative members of the Republican Party and more conservative members of the Republican Party because apparently he wasn't doing enough to capitulate either side. And then, of course, all of the Democrats, because why wouldn't the Democrats vote him out? Isn't it kind of obvious? They have a better chance of getting a Democratic speaker, even though they don't have a majority.
Yeah. So I think before we actually get into, like the vote and the reaction and all those things, on the point of him being a reasonably good speaker, I would venture to put my endorsement behind that. I don't think that he was the best. I don't think that he is the worst by any means. I think he's been put in some pretty tough positions by his party because of this sect of the Republicans that just for some reason, I don't even know what to call them. Like a couple of years back, you had like the Tea Party caucus that was like, very defined. They knew what they wanted. They were articulate. They were clear. And it was a subsect of the Republican Party, but they were not as ridiculous as these. What was it, like 6 representatives, 8 representatives maybe, I can't remember the number off my head, that had voted McCarthy out. what's troubling about it for me is that I do not know what the objective of those Republicans is. And like you had noted, some of those Republicans are more conservative, some of them are less conservative. So there's clearly different motives just based off that fact alone. And McCarthy, not for nothing, has been doing a pretty great job. He forced the deal through essentially this past weekend to avoid a government shutdown, which an entirely separate topic is a thing that we have to deal with far more often than we should is the
That's
potential for
because we
government
don't
shutdowns.
because we never actually pass a budget, and we just pass these omnibus package spending bills that just like carry us over for a couple of weeks, as opposed to actually passing a budget at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Correct. So, but nevertheless, he was able to rally and he, made compromises, which ultimately is what the Speaker of the House is there to do, is to broker these compromises between the two parties and present, legislation to the president, well, to the Senate and then the president ultimately. And his party, at least these, very slim minority, the 4% of the Republican Party that voted him out of his speakership, has a problem with him reaching across the aisle and getting deals for the American people made. And that's a sentiment that McCarthy expressed, once he had lost the speakership. And I believe we'll play the clip later. But it boggles my mind that the people that voted him out seem to me like they have no clear policy objectives, like they have no real ties, it's like deep rooted ties to any institutional Republican beliefs, and they're just these kind of loose cannons.
Well, I think there's a couple things. First of all, most of the people that vote him out, I guess you would consider the MAGA Republicans, like that's the wing of the party they come from. But like, not even like Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't even vote McCarthy out. It was just like 8 guys who just had this like personal vendetta against McCarthy. Matt Gaetz, Andy Briggs, I'm pretty sure was one of them. Um, Let me find the full list in a second, but um here, Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, Ken Buck, Ellie Crane, Bob Good, Matt Rosendale, and Tim Burchett. And then the other one that voted him out was Nancy Mace, who is a less conservative Republican, even less conservative than Speaker McCarthy. And she was like, he's making us vote on too conservative of measures. And it's like, please, Nancy Mace, like, stop. That's ridiculous. Um, I don't think what people understand, and maybe this is just like not getting the role of the politician instead of the role of maybe the commentator or something like that, is that our system is built to compromise with the other side. And you can't expect to get every single thing that you want done because there are other people there that have different agendas than you, from different parts of the country than you, that also want different things done. So to basically like vote a guy out because he's not getting as much as you want done because he's compromising with the other side, doing his job as the leader of the Congress, is so backwards to me, because that means you don't understand your role as a representative in Congress. Because it's a difficult job, but the truth of the matter is you have to make difficult votes that you think ultimately are the best for your constituency. And sometimes that means compromising. Like Congress people are not supposed to be these stalwarts of perfect virtue of their, you know, um ideals, because nothing would ever get done. It's time that we have to look ourselves in the mirror and understand if we're going to do anything. Like we all complain that nothing ever gets done. Maybe that's because you have to compromise sometimes. And as soon as somebody steps into a position and tries to compromise with the other side, this is what happens to them. They get destroyed and lambasted by their own side and voted out of a position that there was no business voting them out of. It's almost like you don't want to win because you don't want to even try to govern.
So I think you make a lot of great points here. And some of the things that I was really considering about this. So, like, I think it's interesting because this motion that was brought against Speaker McCarthy to get him out. Well, first of all, if we didn't already say this, this is the first time this has ever happened. in this country. No speaker has ever lost the speakership in the middle of, a congressional term. That's never happened. So this is unprecedented uh, in American history. So this is a big deal. The motion was brought up by Republican Matt Gaetz. And what I think is so interesting is, those Republicans that voted against him kind of caused this. They're the ones that brought the motion. They're the ones that, ultimately swung the vote not in favor of McCarthy keeping his job. But I have a big issue with the fact that the Democrats, every single Democrat in the House of Representatives, saw this happening, and I don't know if they thought that it might be politically opportune to potentially plunge the Republican Party into some kind of chaos and prove that they're incapable of leadership, or selecting somebody that represents their values, and maybe try and use this as like an expose on the fracturing of the Republican Party that's been happening since the Donald Trump era. But even if that's your objective, what a poor way to get that message across, because you ultimately are the force that is the reason for this unprecedented act that is proof that this body right now is unable to do their job. I know we joke like, oh, Congress doesn't get anything done. Bah, 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 bah. They cannot decide on the Speaker of the House. The Democrats took the opportunity given to them by this small sect of disgruntled Republicans
Literally
and
8 people.
committed an unprecedented act. How does it look? And again, this is another thing that Kevin McCarthy talks about. How does it look for our system, which, like you said, that is designed to be this place of compromise, of brokering of deals, of representing, to the best of your ability, the most amount of American people's interests? How can we govern if we're just going to start getting rid of speakers of the House because we have the numbers and 8 people in our party are upset about it? It's a true dysfunction that we're at right now in government, in a really tactile way that like has never happened before. And now we're sitting in limbo. I don't know if you saw the video of the guy that they nominated as like the interim speaker, but when he got up to the podium, he said his little thing, and that dude, I don't know how that gavel didn't break when he slammed it. I mean, that man, like in a fit of rage, it seemed like he was upset that he just got this new job and upset that he had to get up there and do it. And he has every right to feel that way, because the speakership, rightfully so, belonged to Kevin McCarthy. And there is no good reason for what happened to have happened.
No, but Steven, I like couldn't agree more. Look, let's not pretend that this is the most divisive time in the country. We've literally fought a civil war. We had states secede, right? Okay, but it's pretty damn close to the most divisive time we've had in our country. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people can sit here and have conversations. You have conversations with family and friends, and I'm sure everybody listening has had these conversations. Like, why can't we just like move on and figure it out and get along like we used to do, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, look back to the 90s, and it's like the most successful era of governance probably in the last 50 years. In the 90s, it's like, what was going on? We had a Republican speaker and a Democratic president, and they were working together. People were moderate. People weren't trying to get everything possible done. And guess what? We had a budget surplus for the first time since Andrew Jackson or whatever it was. It's like, sometimes you just need to like swallow your pride a little bit and try and find something to agree on, something in the middle. And if you could start making those steps, then everything else becomes a lot easier. It's negotiation 101. Like, just find the things that you can possibly agree on and get them done. And if you can't even get together and say that, the Speaker of the House should be somebody, that Kevin McCarthy really wasn't doing a poor job. I don't think before this, I don't think anybody was really that angry at the job Kevin McCarthy was doing as Speaker of the House in the general public, right? Sure, there was like a government shutdown fight that he then made an agreement with President Biden and got done before the government shutdown happened. And what, you think we're going to have a speaker by next month or whatever the next spending package that we're going to have to vote on is going to happen. No, we're just going to have the same exact fight all over again. And this time, there's not going to be a person sitting there that will likely get the job done. And then what happens? And look, I'm a conservative guy. I'm a small government guy. The government shutdown, I think, is always an overblown and like is like media meant to scare you type of tactics. But at the end of the day, it's a bad look, and you're just making it happen at this point. And the Democrats are not helping it. Like you said, they're not.
Yeah. So I think, at least in the way the Democrats, based on all the things that I've seen, their principal motivations were Kevin McCarthy's lackadaisical approach to, I'm going to say, remanding the president, former President Donald Trump, for January 6th. They were really upset at the way that he handled that situation. And the impeachment inquiry into Biden is a very obvious another motivation for Democrats to want to get him out of office, because he kind of championed that cause. All those things being said, I think what's so striking to me about this moment, and you mentioned, this is certainly not the most divisive time. There was a time where we were literally divided geographically, by state boundaries. But this is a pretty close second. How does this look? And I want to take a big picture moment here and really put into context the fact that we have a sitting president who, and before I say this, I want to be so clear. I am exactly the kind of person a few years ago that would have been upset, at the characterizations that I'm about to make. However, at this point, it is a little too obvious. And it'd be like a dereliction of my duty as a commentator / reporter to not be honest about what this looks like right now. We have a president who, loses his train of thought, wanders around, needs an excessive amount of like note cards that him exactly how to move throughout his day. Like we have a president who on his face looks to be cognitively challenged because of his age. Number one, as the greatest country in the world, as the most powerful country in the world, as the beacon of democracy and free, that is a bad look for us. We're going to add on to that now, concurrently, at the same exact time. We also have no confidence. We also have no confidence in the head legislator to do their job. So for the first time in the very, short history of this country, we're going to get rid of him. So we have a leader who on his face can't seem to lead, and a body of Congress that also can't lead or get things done. We look incredibly dysfunctional to the
So
rest of
much
the world.
worse. It's so much worse than you're describing, because like let's really, if you want to take the broad picture, let's take the broad picture, right? Our last president, twice impeached and 3 times and counting indicted, and also the front runner for the Republican nomination to be the president again. Our current president, like you said, is in a cognitive decline and is currently under impeachment inquiries for the same corruption like that one of the previous impeachments of the last president was. We have the Speaker of the House who just got voted out of office, and we have completely aging people in our Senate, in which one of them we're promised they're all perfectly fine until literally the day that they're no longer with us. Right? So it's just in shambles, so to speak. And it's not even like we can even try to hide it.
I think it's a really, really sad commentary just about everything and the way that it's transpiring. And I think I want to sort of shift and talk about, even bigger picture. Somebody today, we're recording this on October 5th, just, basically suggested that if they were nominated for the speakership, they would go ahead and take it. So in case you don't know, you don't actually have to be a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives to be the Speaker of the House. So it was touted kind of immediately after McCarthy was out that, who would they want in there? Who could get the votes from the Republicans to take over the speakership? The same person we were talking about, the twice impeached former president who has, you know, 3 indictments and however many charges pressed against him by the federal government. Donald J. Trump today said that he was, potentially going to take this trip out to Washington, and if they nominate him, he would certainly be happy to take up the position as Speaker of the House while he is currently running as the Republican frontrunner for the president. If that does not add another level to the chaos and disarray of the situation that we are currently in politically in this country, I don't know what does.
It genuinely feels like we're in the script of like a Netflix original television show, Steve. Like I can't even put it another way. But let's just go to Speaker McCarthy's words on everything that happened, and then talk about that, and then move on to the next story, because we do have more to talk about. But here is Speaker McCarthy's words himself.
My fear is the institution fell today, because you can't do the job if 8 people, you have 94% of or 96% of your entire conference, but 8 people can partner with the whole other side. How do you govern? And for them to make a motion on me because I made a decision for the country that they agreed with, but they choose to do the other, that becomes a problem. Yes, sir.
Right. And I think, Steve, one of the great points there is that most of those people, like they agreed with the decision to move forward with the country so that we weren't in a government shutdown. And that's why you vote him out. It's truly asinine. And to pretend that Matt Gaetz did this anything other than to just help his brand or his name recognition or whatever, maybe get him in better favors with Donald Trump, who's probably going to win the nomination, so that if he wins the presidency again, he gets some sort of position. I just don't get it. It's like bad politicking.
That's
it's actually
exactly
harmful.
That is exactly what I was going to say. I think those 8 Republicans and every single Democrat that sits in the House of Representatives exhibited bad governance. They took very they would tell you it's politically opportune, to cast a yes vote to oust the Speaker of the House. I would tell you that it is exactly what Speaker McCarthy said. It's a failure of the system. It is 100% a dereliction of what they are sent there to do, which is govern and pass laws and be effective legislators on behalf of the American people, and getting rid of the guy who sits at the head of the governing body that is in charge of that is not at all even remotely close to advancing the purpose of why you were sitting in that chamber of Congress. It's shameful. And I think anybody that believes otherwise is really severely disillusioned to the reality of the situation. Kevin McCarthy, like he said, compromises, sought a deal that the other side was in favor of. And then one of those 8 people, for some personal reason, for some bad political reason, stands up, says, "We want you out of here." And all of a sudden, what was good for them 10 minutes ago now fuels the fire of rhetoric and identity politics to create an unprecedented mess of our governing legislative body. It's shameful. And there's no clear resolution. There is no clear successor. And who knows, maybe when we, come back next week, we could be dealing with Donald Trump as the Speaker of the House. It's like, I would push back on your notion that it's like a Netflix series, because most times, like once the episode ends, you can kind of guess what's going to happen. I legitimately have no idea how this plays out. I don't know who takes over the role. I don't know, who even gets nominated for the role. And that's a whole different conversation that we don't have the time to discuss. But if it's not Donald Trump, who do they put up? Does that person get the votes? What is that like? Like there is just so many unnecessary questions and so many hurdles that we now have to jump over in order to govern in this body of Congress. Like you said, we a timer is ticking. The bill that they just passed was only good for 45 days. So somebody needs to be in that position by the end of the month in order to start brokering a deal so we don't have another government shutdown or avoid, passing any legislation that'd be really important for us to pass in the next month.
Yeah, I will say I know that Jim Jordan is talking about running, and I believe
Ugh.
I believe Steve Scalise, who's the current House Majority Leader, is probably a top contender to run. But we'll see. And I do want to note one thing. I think it would be inconsistent. Look, do I particularly agree that the Democrats should have all voted Speaker McCarthy out? No. It's politically opportune for them, certainly. I don't think it hurts them in their base to say that they didn't cast the vote to keep Speaker McCarthy in. And I think it only helps them because now they have this probably faulty notion that they might be able to get some squishy Republicans on their side and get a Democratic speaker. But it doesn't make it any better. I think it's bad politicking from the Republicans that voted out, especially Nancy Mace. It just makes zero sense for me. I think she's just, at this point, she might as well just drop the R from her name because Speaker McCarthy was making her vote on too conservative of things. Like, grow up, get out of here. Be an independent at that point, please. And the other ones, you're just stupid. Like, you are just dumb. But anyway, that's a personal attack, I suppose. And I don't really have anything of substance other than, like, it's moronic to me.
It is. And one last point. I know we keep doing this, like, one last point, and there's like one last point. But truthfully, my last thoughts on the matter, I don't see, and again, maybe I'm a little bit disillusioned myself. I don't see any reasonable Democratic voter getting behind their representatives' vote to plunge the country into chaos. I think if you are a voter, you have to, and again, we've talked about this so many times on the show, the voter has a lot of responsibility. You need to take that step back and you need to absolve yourself of looking through the lens of party lines and realize if your representative voted to kick the Speaker of the House out, they are responsible for whatever happens or doesn't happen until we get a new one in. And that could mean another government shutdown. It could mean that we are missing deadlines on programs that are going to run out of funding. It could mean a million different things because the speakership is that important of a position. It is the third in line succession to the president for a reason. This is a person who has a lot of responsibility in this country. It is somebody who should be trustworthy. I think Kevin McCarthy, as much as I might politically disagree with him, was exactly the right person at the right time to get this job done, and nothing in his record reflects the outcome of this past vote. It is a shameful day, and another one of those like historical moments that we just get to live through, but it sucks. It really sucks.
I think it would honestly be hysterical if the Republicans do make Donald Trump the speaker just as a screw you to the Democrats that helped to vote McCarthy out, because then how are they going to turn back to their base and be like, can you believe what the Republicans did? And it's like, dog, you caused this.
You know what? Now that you're saying that, I think that might be the best thing in the world for the Republicans to do if they want some redemption here. But anyway, I never thought I'd say this. They got to make Trump the speaker. I never thought I'd say.
We got to make. You want to talk about a crazy impeachment proceeding?
Oh, good God! Oh my gosh! Speaker. Oversees the Biden. Oh, nope, not ready for it.
We got one more story, Steve. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So this one is coming out of Bergen County, and interesting. There's a fun little anecdote that we can talk about after this. But so this is a gentleman. His name's James Tassoni. I'm going to imagine that last name's correct. If not, I apologize. 7 years old, Washington Township. Important, he describes himself as a non-theist, which is somebody who does not ascribe to God or gods in a religion. He is suing the Secretary of State, Tahisha Wei, claiming that New Jersey forces people who run for public office to swear to a religious oath. And he basically says that it is unconstitutional to compel citizens to swear the words, "So help me God," because if you don't, you forego your right to seek public office. So that is basically the entire story. I think it's interesting because the complaint that was filed in district court, obviously these things are a little bit embellished, but it reads, and I'm going to quote this. It says, quote, "By requiring plaintiff to swear, so help me God, in order to run for public office without a secular option, the Secretary of State has inflicted and will continue to inflict irreparable harm upon the plaintiff." I don't really know what the irreparable harm is. It's just, "So help me God," 4 words, but I understand his point.
Yeah, I think honestly, if you don't believe that there is a God and you are this non-theist, grow up and say those words because it doesn't matter to you anyway. Right? It literally doesn't matter to you. You don't believe in it anyway. So just say the words. Like,
I think
please. It's not irreparable.
so. This is something I remember a conversation. It might have been one of the first episodes of any broadcast conversation that you and I ever did. We're talking back at least 5 years, if not more, at this point at Montclair State University. And I had said, the idea, because I'm not a religious person. I don't subscribe to any religion. The idea, if I ever want to run for public office, particularly the president, let's say there's a magical word where I run for president, I win. They've all sworn in on a Bible. Granted, there's nothing that says you have to swear in on a Bible, but you enter this weird, murky area where it's like, well, if I don't want to do that, what is the public perception of this going to be? And now this is totally different because the state of New Jersey here requires by law that you say those words. But I do agree on principle in a country where we do have the freedom of religion and there is no state sponsorship of a particular religion. There should be some sort of a secular or, to use this guy's term, non-theist option to conform for people in his position. I think the anecdote that I'll share, I was sworn into a position, it's like 2 years ago at this point, as a court advocate for a program called CASA, which deals with children in foster care. And the swear-in was over Zoom because this was during COVID. And I didn't want to swear in on a Bible, so I chose another book of tremendous personal importance to me, and I swore in. I took my oath on the Sopranos family cookbook, but just to prove the point that I don't really think, as much as you argue the words don't matter, just say them if you don't believe them. I think whatever you're swearing in on, as long as it has some sort of value to you, some sort of importance to you, and you swear to something, that is of the utmost importance to you, I don't really care. I'm not going to sit here and tell people that they need to swear to God if they don't believe in God. I don't think that's the position that the state should have either. I think there should be some sort of leniency. There should be some sort of option for people who are so opposed to saying those words, so opposed that they suffer irreparable harm.
You know what?
That's
Steve?
kind of where I'm at on it.
This is genuinely, this is my take, and I hear it and I understand it, and quite frankly, I don't have the case law, constitutional law background right now to like go out and tell you why this isn't a violation of the First Amendment, which I really don't think it is. But I'll just say this: the point in saying "So help me God" is not to swear to some Judeo-Christian Lord above that you may or may not believe in. No, it's the idea that you are going to swear to uphold your duty to something bigger than you are. And so that's why we have people swear to God. I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Meaning, so I will do what I can because there is something bigger than me, and that is the truth. There is something bigger than me, and that is the oath that I am taking. So I am swearing to that thing that is larger than I am, which is the reason I am taking this oath. And that is why you say the word, so help me God. And I think it's just ridiculous and asinine and just a political ploy, and a stupid one at that, again, to put this lawsuit out. It's like, no, you're missing the whole point. The whole point isn't to force you to subscribe to any particular religion. No, that's not the point. The point is to get you to swear an oath to something bigger than you, so that when you sit in your chair at the end of the day in your elected official office, you can say, I have obligations bigger than me. So get over yourself. You non-theist, whatever you are, I don't care what you are. Get over yourself.
So I think, to supplement your point, worth noting, the statute, which they quote in part in the article on NJ.com, reads that every elected official is, quote, required by law to give assurance of fidelity and attachment to the government by stating, so help me God. So exactly to your point, the statute seems pretty clear on its face, and granted, that's just a piece of it, that you're not actually swearing to the belief of, or, your whatever admiration of a god. It very clearly says that it is to your fidelity, and what was the exact word they used? Your fidelity
To the government.
Fidelity and attachment to the government. So that is the thing that you are swearing to. And I think it's just historical precedent. That's at least how the story goes. When George Washington was sworn in, that was never a part of the written oath, and he just kind of said it. And ever since then, that's what everybody else does. So in New Jersey, however, there is a statute that does mandate that. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. The state attorneys, or the Secretary of State's office, was reached for comment. They didn't provide anything. The Office of Attorney General did not provide any comments.
Yeah, because
there's
it's a
also
ridiculous lawsuit. It's stupid, and it's not going to go anywhere.
Well, I was going to say that is also supporting the notion that this might just be a frivolous lawsuit. This might just be a guy who's genuinely has nothing better to do. And maybe you want to talk about, bad politicking. Maybe he's bringing this up because now I know that Mr. Tosone is running for some office in Bergen County. This could be a great PR stunt.
No, that's exactly what it is. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. He's a 70-year-old man running for office that's just trying to ruffle feathers. But I just, it's so stupid. It boggles my mind, Stephen. It really does, that these are the people that run for office. And then we wonder, we wonder why no good people run for office. And it's because of all of the grief that people get for trying to do their job, like Speaker McCarthy. And then we get people like this that run for office. It's just the way that and then we complain.
And you know what? There's nothing. Well, actually, I was going to say there's nothing we can do about it. There is a lot we can do about it. I think having conversations like this is a big material part of that. I think making sure that the people that we vote for, who have clear, conscionable values, is a great part of making sure that we put the right people in office. And just staying true to yourself, not taking what a party or an ideology or a group of people tells you is the right thing to believe or do. There needs to be independent thought, independent conversation, and you need to act on those things. Because if not, look at where we end up. We don't have a Speaker of the House, and some guy's upset because he's got to say 4 words in order to take his position as, a public servant. We are fighting about the wrong things in this country, and it is leading us down a very dangerous path.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better myself, and I think that's a fair way to end this episode, although, albeit not a very happy note. But I'll say this. Stephen. Like all good things, this too must come to an end. And that was another episode of Bridging the Gap on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo.
And I'm Steve Rambola.
And for Bridging the Gap, Jersey First TV, and on NJ, have a great week, everybody. And we'll talk to you next week. Peace out.